Democratic Congressman from California and Vice Chair of the Democratic Caucus, Ted Lieu. Congressman, thanks for being here. Let's talk about the border. And the president says this money was appropriated by Congress. He has to build that wall. He doesn't have a choice on it. He does not think the wall works. The mayor that Morgan was just talking to does not think the wall works. What would work down at the border?
President Biden is correct. During the Trump administration, this money was put into the appropriations bills, and according to the administration, they have to spend it. Now, I do note that the administration also waived environmental laws to do that. So I'm not clear as to whether they have to spend the money if they also have to waive environmental laws. I'm not an expert in this area. I'm getting more details from the administration. And in terms of border security, we need more advanced technology. We need to have comprehensive immigration reform. There are laws that we currently have to enforce and also bills to reform our immigration system. And I support comprehensive immigration reform. That's how we solve this problem.
That's a great thing to hear for a lot of Americans who are desperate for some sort of immigration reform, because, again, at 245,000 crossing the border, and cities across the country, including now cities like Chicago and New York City, overwhelmed with the number of migrants that are here. They say they just can't handle them. There's not the infrastructure in place. Why don't you start working on that with Republicans? Republicans have been talking about the border nonstop. They want to, hardline versions of it, put those into a number of bills. Do you think there's room to negotiate on this with this Republican majority in the House?
A number of Democrats have been working with Republicans. There are various bipartisan proposals being floated. There have been bipartisan bills that have been introduced. We can't do anything right now because the Republicans took out their own speaker. And so the House of Representatives is in chaos because the Republican Party can't govern. Democrats are ready to govern. We just need a willing Republican partner that will abandon MAGA extremism and come work with Democrats on a bipartisan path forward.
So both the governor of Illinois and the mayor of New York City have raised one particular issue about what is making it harder to assimilate the migrants into the cities and get them housing and get them working. Part of it is that there's a 5-6 month delay between when they come in and when they are allowed to start working. Can Congress shorten that timeline so that migrants don't have to resort to selling candy on a subway to try and get enough money to pay rent somewhere, to get out of a shelter?
Democrats are definitely willing to work with Republicans to come up with a solution. And that does also bring to mind that today we had another outstanding jobs report. 336,000 jobs created last month, thanks to President Biden's policies. And we clearly need a lot more people in America to be able to sustain our growing economy. And we have still one of the lowest inflation rates of any of the major civilized countries.
Is that something that you can work on once there is a speaker? I mean, is there any legislation that is currently on the table to shorten that particular time frame for when they can start working?
There have always been bills introduced on that specific issue. Whether or not Republicans would like to join Democrats, it remains to be seen. But the first order of business is for the Republican Party to make a decision to govern and elect a speaker.
Do you think the Biden administration is doing enough on this? I mean, you have the mayor of New York City saying that the city is in crisis. You have the governor of New York State saying the state is in crisis. You have the governor of Illinois saying the same thing about Illinois, that the administration has sent $46 million to Illinois, $100 million to New York. Illinois says, it needs $330 million for the city of Chicago, and not $46 million. And then New York says it needs $12 billion. Is the Biden administration out there in front of this issue that seems to be building in Democratic cities and states?
Richard Nixon shut down the border because of the crisis at the southern border. And then he reopened it because that policy failed. This has been a problem decade after decade after decade after decade. When we had a chance to solve it with comprehensive immigration reform, House Republicans blocked that. So it is at the step of House Republicans when they stop this.
Do you want to hear the president talk about it more directly?
Democrats.
Do you want to hear the president talk about it more directly? Because the president controls the White House and Democrats control the Senate. Do you think if the president focused on it more directly that it would get some more momentum, put more pressure on the Republicans to come to the bargaining table?
Yes, I think President Biden can definitely be helpful in getting Democrats and the Republicans in Congress to work together. But again, we have a chaotic Republican majority who can't govern. And so we need to at least get them to just stop stupid stuff like trying to shut down government and trying to bring us to the brink of a default. So we're at a very, very basic level now, just trying to do basic governmental functions. And until we can get a speaker elected, nothing happens on the floor of the House of Representatives.